Okay, what's up everybody? I've been holding off on doing this video because I wanted to let everything die down. Plus I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I almost did this video a couple of days ago, and then I got to see the other shoe drop. So I wanted to process that for a couple of days before I actually decided to weigh in on this myself. Now, for those of you that know me personally, I hope you're sitting down. I'm about to do something I thought I would never do. And I'm going to extend Daybreak a heartfelt congratulations. Now, for those who don't know, they just recently emerged victorious in a lawsuit against a emulator server called the Hero's Journey. We'll refer to them as THJ. Now, in emulator communities, there's some unwritten rules, some things you do, some things you don't do. Absolutely don't do. THJ decided to break the rules. Um, it's rare in the EverQuest community. To give a little background about myself, when it comes to emulation, there are two communities that I was a part of, or still am a part of, from day one. That was the EverQuest, excuse me, get a little tongue-tied, EverQuest community, and the Star Wars Galaxies community, obviously. Um, I had the privilege of being part of those communities, watching them first be formed. When the EverQuest community first came about in emulation, there were actually two emulators. There was the EQEmu, and then there was another one which I was personally a fan of, created by a guy named Zordon. Nice guy, by the way. Hope he's doing alright. Called Eternal Quest, aka Hacker's Quest. Now, actually, personally, I thought he did that a pretty good job on that back in the day. I want to say it was like written in Ruby, RubyLib, whatever it's called, and EQEmu used MySQL database. So there was a distinct difference on the setup in between the two. And back then, if you wanted to play on an emulated server, you had to keep two copies of the game. One you patched to live, obviously. The other one that you would only let it patch up to a certain point, and then if you were new, you had to wait till like the project caught up to whatever point. So over the years, I've watched the goals of sticking with the EverQuest community only. Watched the goals of the EQEmu and emulation with EverQuest change because it started out initially trying to emulate the game in its current form to now they only emulate the classic errors, which I personally don't have a problem with any of that. I have no dog in that fight. But I definitely watched it change because technically, from a developmental standpoint, after almost 3 decades or whatever, emulating only 9 expansions out of 29, that's not a lot really. That if I'm being brutally honest, especially when you already have the framework in place. So you know that their goal was to basically stick to earlier time periods, um, which is fine for me. I prefer the earlier time periods, if I'm being brutally honest. I think most old players do. I don't think that's an issue for most of us. But I want to give Daybreak some credit because I was actually disappointed in a large majority of our community on how much shade they wanted to give Daybreak for actually sticking up for their rights. And this is why I got to give kudos to Daybreak because a message had to be sent. Oh, and sent it was. Yeah, people didn't like that pill that they had to swallow, but swallow that shit they did. I saw people review bombing, which that was kind of hilarious to me, especially when they're outright, reviewing a game and mentioning an emulator server. I have seen people try to, be positive about the situation, getting attacked, and I found it disheartening and disappointing because one of the things that I talk about the community is how great, how nice everybody is. I'm not saying like people don't have their arguments on the forums, stuff like that. When they got the kids hats on. But for the most part, I've never, well, not even for the most part, for all the part, I ain't never really had no static with nobody over in that community. Everybody's always been rock'em sock'em. Everybody's always been helpful. Everybody's always been polite. Everybody's always been respectful in my own personal experiences and interactions, which is why it was always so disappointing to see how many people came out of the woodwork, wanted to throw tantrums because THGA decided they wanted to break some rules, because what they turned around and they did. And I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to be really honest. This is an average Tuesday in World of Warcraft circles. That's why I didn't really think too much about this. It was an average Tuesday over there. But over here, it's unheard of. They do an in-game store. You can get certain things for donations. And that's really what blipped them on radar. It wasn't the custom content. It wasn't even the fact that they had a lot of people on the server. They got blipped on the radar because they monetized that server. And I called this months in advance when I had certain individuals want to invite me over to the server. And where they made the mistake was that they mentioned about the store. The nice little bag you get for a donation. I'm like, no, y'all gonna get closed down. Somebody might want to tell them dudes don't be doing that shit. Y'all gonna get closed down. And to be honest, I'm surprised it took Daybreak as long as it did for them to address the issue. I personally felt like maybe they was trying to give them some time to wake up. Maybe, put their thinking caps on a little bit and take it down themselves. Possible. But they didn't put their thinking caps on. They didn't put the thinking caps on, so they got spanked, and a lot of people got mad about it. But the stone cold reality is that Daybreak had every right to do what they did. These dudes was raking in 100 grand a month. From what I understand, based on what a judge said, they made almost up to $1 million, if I'm not mistaken. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments on that, but last I read, they made up to almost damn near $1 million on somebody else's IP. And the thing is, what amazes me is this was never going to play out any other kind of way. There was no alternate timeline where everybody, was going to get to keep this server. The best offer you might have even got is that they paid restitution and maybe got to keep the server with alterations. And if I'm being really honest, they probably didn't because they tried to fight that shit. Rather than saying, we fucked up, here's your money, can we keep the server please? To my understanding, they tried to fight that shit. I'm not gonna name names, but hell, I was disappointed. I seen content creators up here talking about we got a right to this. You ain't got a right to shit. We ain't got no right to shit. Everything that we got given, that we've been allowed to do. Let me just be crystal clear. That we've been allowed to do is a gift. We have went almost 3 decades without being fucked with. In relative peace, there was a balance. There was an order to things. All you had to do is follow the rules. The footage you guys see in the background. This is my own little private single player server. This is where I play with all the little peoples in my head. And as long as I'm playing with the peoples in my head, I can do whatever the fuck I want to on this server. So I don't have to worry about no rules. It's just me and the little peoples in my head running around. My own little offline server. Daybreak allowed me to do this. Make no mistake on that. Thank you, Daybreak. It is much appreciated that you let me play with the little peoples in my head. Very much appreciated. See, that's why I can't complain. Because Daybreak is nice like that. But the other shoe did drop. The other shoe did drop. Because like I said a couple of days ago, I was about to do this video. And then I happened to come across this. So I did find it interesting that something was mentioned in this. This was a notice about, and then there was a part in there about the World of Warcraft case. But it's the same case that I'm thinking of. I'm going to tell you why you can't compare that. If this has to do with the Turtle WoW situation, most of, if not all of the World of Warcraft servers use leak code. This is where things are a little different in the EverQuest community and the Star Wars Galaxies community. Or more accurately, the SWG pre-CU community. Is that those codes are written from the ground up. They're not leak code. That's for the most part why these two communities have been able to manage and live in relatively peace. Relative peace because they wrote their own damn code. Nobody gonna mess with them as long as they don't try to make no money. But I do want to kind of, I'm gonna go over the rules a little bit. I'm gonna give y'all the simplified version of the rule. Hold up. Let me get my thing here. So I'm gonna actually scroll down this just so you guys can check it out for yourselves. Because I'm gonna give y'all the simplified version. That way you can pause the video. I'm even gonna leave the link in the description so you guys can pull it up from the description as well and go over there. So for the most part, I do not have a problem with these rules because, well, one, I'm not a server operator, so quite literally none of this applies to me, but I am going to give some thoughts on this. So the simplified version is you definitely have to stick within the legacy time frame. Custom content days are over. The type of custom content creating that's gone. You might as well just say that's gone. But hold on. I think I went a little too far up. I did. Let me go back. There we go. Rise above the hay. One particular rule stood out to me, and I'm gonna be really honest. I'm gonna be really honest. Rule 9. Rule 9 sucks ass. That's my personal opinion, and I'm gonna explain why Rule 9. Why it sucks ass. So you can only have a max population of 800 people. Now for old MMOs, the average population is roughly about 3,000 a server. So you're basically being told you can only have 1/3 of a server population if you host a server. And if you do holiday custom content, if you do some kind of holiday special, you can only have half of a 1/3 of a server. And I gotta be honest, that is complete and total horseshit. And the only reason why it wouldn't be a big deal in the EverQuest community is because lately nowadays the server populations have not really been all that high. But if I'm being brutally honest, they're probably doing that to try to keep everybody off of fucking Daybreak's radar because everybody's been putting their shitting pants on. Pants shitting has definitely been happening all across the board. You got so many different people closing up shop. You even got the EverQuest 2 emulator. There was a community over there, they closed up shop. Everybody freaking the hell out. And all they had to do was follow the simple rules. So some of them makes me wonder, like, what the fuck was y'all doing that y'all feel like y'all gotta freak out and close up shop and hide now? It's like Acadius, right? I, I like the dude. Nice guy. The Big A is a cool guy. I'm not even gonna lie, but that message when he closed up Discord, talking about the current climate of things and the hostility, and wait, hold on, y'all fucking up. Y'all fucking up. See, and I'm disappointed in my dude because he's a very intelligent dude. He's a very intelligent dude. Very nice guy. But I'm disappointed in my dude because this was the opportunity to say, hey, we don't play that shit around here. You see his name on a lot of the server setups, or at least I don't know how they're gonna do this now because he turned around, he closed up shop, closed up the Discord, he pulled all his toys down for the most part. So he closed up shop. And to be quite honest, that fucked up a lot of people. Especially, if they don't know where to look to get this, that, and the third. That fucked a lot of things up. But, I can't complain because Rogan, hopefully I'm saying his name right, we're going to call him the Big R. The Big R. He's the one that announced these rules. I don't know if I'm assuming he's the one that did the negotiating based off his post. Big R, Rule 9, you need to take that back to the table. If I was a server operator, I would be so aggravated. Plus, I'm pretty sure I've seen P99 have more than 800 back in the day. Y'all have more than 800. So these same rules, y'all gonna end up having to follow the same shit. It's not gonna be a problem right now, but I can see this being a problem if the game pulls back up in popularity. Now, me personally, like I said, I have no dog in this fight because if I'm gonna play online outside, if I'm gonna play with outside the people in my head, I'll either play on Project 1999, P99, or I'll play on the EverQuest Live server. So I literally have no dog in this fight. This is just me expressing my opinion, and on behalf of server operators, I think Rule 9 sucks. I get why they put all the other restrictions. Makes sense considering what THJ did. Makes perfect sense. I understand literally all of that. I even understand why you would probably have Rule 9 there because you don't want Daybreak getting antsy. But at some point, some common sense got to be in play between both Daybreak and the emulator community. You're going to have your ups and your downs when it comes to the population. Putting a hard cap on people, I just think that's bullshit. I might have been able to handle the 800 if you hadn't followed it up with a 400 limit if you do a holiday event. Especially consider, more people are going to want to check out the holiday event. All you've done is make it difficult for other players to basically be able to log into those servers. I can see this one I can see Rule 9 biting some people in the ass. Especially if, the populations pick up down the road. Right now, I think a lot of the community is saying fuck this shit. They're gonna either sit there and play on the live server, or they're gonna play like on Project 99. Me personally, I know Daybreak signed off on it, so plus I've never had no issues with anybody over there. Everybody's been kind of rock'em sock'em. And the only reason this is as noticeable, this made it as big as it did, is because it happened in the EverQuest community. Shit like this is so rare. Like I cannot think of a single time where somebody was stupid enough. And hey, maybe some of y'all that have been more active in the community than me, maybe you did hear about it. By all means, feel free to pop it in the comments. But I cannot think of in the last 3 decades, I cannot think of a single time, not one, where somebody was that stupid they wanted to throw up a damn in-game store. I damn sure ain't never heard nobody sitting there making $1 million raking 100K in donations a fucking month, and the fact that so many people are mad, you took my favorite server down. Well, what did you think was gonna happen? And my favorite one is when people want to sit there and they want to talk about it, posting negative reviews on the Steam page, EverQuest, review bombing. My favorite one, my favorite thing that I read, my favorite thing ain't the fact that they mention THJ. Oh no, that's not my favorite. No, the icing on the cake is when I see people say, Daybreak never listens to us. And then I sit there and I go, hold on. Let's process this. You mean to tell me within the last 26 years, almost 30 years, last 3 decades, you just now figure it out? Daybreak don't listen? Really? Okay, fam. Okay. Okay. It took you 30 years to figure that shit out. I could have told you that back in 1999. They wasn't listening to nobody. I could have told you that when the NGE dropped on Star Wars Galaxy. They wasn't listening to nobody. So for those that need to know, that ain't figured out in the last 30 years, Daybreak don't listen to you. Just so you know, if Daybreak don't listen to you, they're going to do whatever they want to do when it comes to that. And I also want to point out, because I had somebody give me shade for pointing this out, and I don't give a fuck. I have to actually give the EverQuest team credit. What they got? 5, 10 dev, 30 tops? Compared to what? 1, 200, 300 developers over there at World of Warcraft? And the fact that they can push out content as consistently as they do, a lot of these people don't probably sit there, watch the company get downsized, sit there, lost, their friends got fired, and they still go to work pushing content out for people. People want to complain and this, that, and the third, and I'm sitting there like, y'all need to be a little more appreciative. Understand, these people, they do this for a living. You may not like the direction of the game, but they working a job just the same as you work a job. They might be doing what they're told to do. So I got a lot of sympathy when it comes to the development team on EverQuest, because I've seen people, go through watching their team downsized, and it's not fun. It's not fun. I mean, hell, Bampy, who y'all see play on the channel, she had to watch her own team get downsized. That takes a toll on somebody, you know, having to watch people lose their jobs, figure out how to feed their fucking families, you know. And then you got a fucking emulator server over here trying to take what little's left of the team, the food off of their table. And the fact that so many of y'all signed off on that fucking bullshit, y'all should be fucking ashamed of yourselves. I'm ashamed for you, shit. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? It's hard enough in this world without us fucking each other over. Yeah, we should be helping each other or whatever, not doing each other in. So yeah, on this note, I am gonna support Daybreak. I'm gonna fully endorse what the fuck Daybreak did. I definitely have a faster pussycat, kill mentality when it comes to this shit. Lessons needed to be learned. And learned they were. They have been. Now, we got a bunch of rules that we got to follow All because one server decided they didn't want to follow the rules. Very simple common sense rules. Most of this shit is common sense. Don't fuck with the man's money. Don't try to get paid off their shit. Not rocket science. I can't even believe people signed off on it. In any case, I might actually consider, because all the mistakes Daybreak made, I'm gonna be honest, that pushed me to predominantly doing emulator only. But the fact that Daybreak actually stood up for themselves, I'm actually pretty proud of them. I ain't gonna lie. Ain't too many times. This probably be the only time I ever actually sing Daybreak's praises. But I'm actually pretty proud of them for standing up for their rights. I love when people stand up for themselves. And Daybreak deserved to stand up for themselves. There's so many of y'all wanted to sit there and get on YouTube thrashing, talking shit. Fuck every last one of y'all that sit there and tore them down or whatever just because they stood up for their own fucking rights. Because they're not going to say it, they're going to be professional. I'm going to say it for them. Because I know they want to say it. So I'll say it for them. I'll be the voice of Daybreak on this one. Kiss Daybreak's ass. Kiss Daybreak's entire ass. Y'all trying to take the food off their table, use their fucking IP to get fucking paid. What the fuck is the matter with you? And those of you content creators that sitting there like signing off on that, trying to, yeah, man, this our game. No, it ain't your fucking game. It's not my game. It's nobody's game. It's their intellectual property, and they put it out. We enjoy it. We're fans, and they have not fucked with us in 3 decades until y'all pulled this shit. And this could have bled out into the Star Wars Galaxies emulator community, among other communities. That's the thing that pissed me off. I'm not about to have my damn little SWG paradise fucked with because folks don't want to act right. And y'all lucky. I'm gonna tell y'all, lucky y'all they do not hire an asshole like me. And I know I'll probably piss some people off saying that, but y'all lucky they didn't hire me to do public relations. My public relations skills suck. My public relations skills suck ass. I'd have been like, oh, y'all want to make $1 million off my shit? Guess what? None of y'all get to play with nothing no more. How you like me now? How you like me now? We taking we taking a whole. Y'all lucky Daybreak didn't do that. So while you're tearing Daybreak down, y'all should probably be thanking Daybreak that we still have an emulator community. I'd probably even throw a big thank you over there to the Big R, because even though Big R, I'm not a fan of some of these rules or whatever that you got down here, I understand why they're there. You're keeping the monkey off our back. Pun totally intended. Keeping the monkey off our back. So shout out to the Big R. Shout out to the Big R. Although rule number 9 is sucks ass. You need to take that one back to the table. In any case, this is where I'm at with this situation. Big heartfelt thank you. If you watched to the end of this video, like and subscribe. Those of y'all that I made mad, I still love y'all. So scratch your ass and get glad. Do better, fam. Do better. You know, that's all I can really say. Let this be a teachable moment, a learning lesson. We will move on from this, and I don't even know why they would reference this situation, like I said, in the World of Warcraft case, because that's a whole other conversation. That's a whole other video. That's a whole other video. You can't even compare them two situations. And again, congratulations, Daybreak. If I decide to do some EQ content, I definitely will be checking out the live. I might even periodically bounce over to the P99. I might even do that. But definitely gonna check out the live because I want to see what people are complaining about. Because last time I looked at live, I didn't see a problem with it. I personally didn't have a problem with it. I thought they did a good job. I personally didn't have a problem with what they did on the live game, but it's been a few years since I peeked over there, so maybe it's about time. Maybe I'm due another peek to see what people actually are complaining about because I don't get it. It's the same fucking game that it's been all these years. Yeah, I mean, if anything, they watered it down a little bit or whatever, but I mean, can you blame them? The population has dropped. I mean, I would argue that EverQuest in its original form was the very first original survival game because, I mean, shit, you had to hunt all over the place looking for your body and shit. I'd spend 5 hours in the Greater Fair Dark or whatever trying to find my body. It's also the first game that I figured out or whatever that you can have you can have your character as your bona fide drinking buddy. Because guess what? Not that I promote drinking, but when I was young, man, and I used to drink all the time. When your character drinks, he gets drunk too. And so if you're drunk and your character is drunk and you're drunk together, that's not a good combination, fam. That's not a good combination. Especially when you're grouping, because I was a druid. I play as a druid. So I'm always getting called for heals. You make motherfuckers mad or whatever if you drunk trying to heal and your character's drunk trying to heal. I fucked around and healed a bunch of orcs one time in Crushbone or whatever. I had my whole group mad at me. What the fuck y'all mad for? I healed? You healed all the orcs. Oh, okay. I can see that being a problem. I can see that being a problem. Okay. They was mad. I don't blame them though for being mad. And I had to stop drinking. It was not working wonders for my EverQuesting career. So it's a good thing I quit decades ago. Yeah. So if you ain't ever started, don't start. But if you are a drinker, this is the game to have a good character drinking buddy. Because I mean, I would have my wife in the other room be like, fucking drink, motherfucker. I'm over here yelling at the damn computer and she looking at me like I'm fucking crazy. I would have a drink, my character would have a drink. I would drink, my character would drink. I would play drinking games with my fucking EverQuest character. My eyes was so fucked up by the time I was done. I don't even know why I'm telling y'all this shit. Alright, I'm done. Fuck this. I'm done. Don't drink, it's bad for your health. But if you're gonna drink, drink with your EverQuest character. This is the game to do it with. But don't drink. Don't drink. If you ain't ever started, don't start. It's not a good thing to do. Congratulations to the Daybreak. Big shout out to them for sticking up for your rights. Y'all earned the victory. And you know what? This was never gonna play out. So those of y'all that mad, like I said, scratch your ass and get glad, because this was never gonna play out. And there's no alternate timeline. That there's no reality this would have ever played out any differently. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, to be the one to break it to you. It was never gonna play out any differently than this, fam. It was never gonna play out any differently than this. So, and if you're a server operator in the emulator community, you definitely want to stick with classic EverQuest. You are no longer allowed to deviate with too much custom crap at all in that. Those days are over, and that's the price that the community now has to pay. You know, it is what it is. It is what it is. So, my advice to people, especially new, I would either play on a live server if you want to play on an emulator community. I would play it safe and play on Project 1999. There are other server communities out there, but unfortunately I cannot recommend any personally because I have not played on them. So I'm not comfortable in recommending a community that I have not personally played in. P99 I have. That's how I know it's rock'em sock'em. Everybody's pretty chill over there. I've never had an issue with anybody over in P99. Everybody's pretty laid back. At least everybody I've ever interacted with. Um, so it's either that or go live. In any case, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe to the channel. Take care, stay safe. Have a good one, everybody. And remember, be cool. Don't be a fool.